What is up and welcome back. We are your Emerald Coast Relocation Team, Pete and Chelsea Sweeney, and today what we're going to be doing is comparing Tampa Bay, Florida to Pensacola, Florida, because these are actually two spots that we are choosing between when we decided to move down into this free state.
All right, let's go.
Before diving into this video, guys, what we like to do on this channel is cover all the Emerald Coast, giving you all those ins and outs that we personally experienced when relocating into the free state of Florida.
So if that is what you're looking for, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell so you're notified every single time we put out a new video.
And guys, if you are looking at personal real estate down here, give us a call or text the phone number right below. Right below right there, we have assembled the best team to help you out with all those real estate needs. The first thing that we're going to be covering, which is the most obvious, is the size or population of Tampa Metro as opposed to Pensacola Metro. If you're looking over at the Tampa Metro, you've got almost 3 million in population over there. Go down to Pensacola, or I guess you go up to Pensacola if we're talking about the latitude. You're looking at almost 400,000 to be more exact. A little right around 360,000 people in population. So definitely a lot smaller in Pensacola as opposed to Tampa Bay.
And this is very apparent when you are kind of flying into the airport at both places. Like, you're going to have a much larger airport to accommodate for all those people flying into that area. In Pensacola, where it just does not feel that dense. In fact, when we'll talk a little bit about some like congestion and traffic a little later, but even just like the feel of the area, you can tell it is not heavily as dense as say down in South Florida.
We just dropped some family members off at the airport this morning, and it was just like a strip, and I'm like, what airlines are you? Because I'm like, I'm thinking back to like Denver, you know, where it's like I have all the airlines laid out. And it's like, it doesn't really matter because you pretty much just have 100 yards, you just park there and it's just all right there. Tampa's a lot different, obviously, because of the size of it. The second thing that we're going to be covering, which is also an obvious one, is the cost of living of Pensacola as compared to Tampa Bay. How we like to approach these cost of livings, unless we're going into the real estate, because we'll give you a little bit more specific numbers when talking about that, is we have your national average, which is 100. If it's above that 100, obviously it's more expensive. If it's below it, then it's cheaper than your national average.
So if we're looking at overall, which is encompassing all the different categories into one, if you're down in Tampa, it's going to be about a 103.7, so a little bit above national average. Now, where does Pensacola stand on that? Pensacola is coming in at 87.2, so this is a significant difference. Not only is Pensacola going to be below national average, but it is also a lot cheaper than, say, Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, we're not going to break into all of the different categories in this cost of living. Let's just mention a few notable ones that I noticed. You know, it's like Tampa might be more expensive here, whereas Pensacola might be a little bit more expensive here. First one is the groceries in Pensacola as compared to Tampa. If you're down in Tampa, you're looking at a 105.1, whereas opposed to Pensacola, you're looking at a 96.6. So apparently food and groceries, a lot cheaper in Pensacola as compared to Tampa.
Now, when you're comparing health, I think both of these areas do a good job of getting accessibility to healthcare. Yeah. But if you're looking at the cost, Tampa's going to come in at 100, whereas Pensacola is going to come in at 98. So it is going to be a little bit cheaper and still below national average. So this is kind of a trend when looking at Pensacola compared to other areas in Florida.
So not that big of a difference, right, in regards to cost of living of your health in Pensacola compared to Tampa. One that is huge, though, is we're going to talk about housing. And in this housing number, this also includes your rentals and purchasing a home in Pensacola as compared to Tampa. If we look at that cost of living index down in Tampa, you're looking at a 105, just a little bit over 105, so definitely more expensive than your national average. You go down into Pensacola, I guess up into Pensacola, we keep on getting ups and downs mixed up. You're looking at 63, so that is a huge difference. Again, that is covering if you want to rent and or purchase in Pensacola as compared to Tampa. Let's break even deeper into that. What is your median sales price in Tampa compared to Pensacola? Over in Tampa, you're looking at a median sales price of $440,000. Quick note on that, that is encompassing your attached and detached products lumped into one sum. If you're looking over in Pensacola, it's $300,000. Much different when purchasing a house in Pensacola as compared to Tampa.
Now, one category that we thought was kind of surprising is going to be the utilities. So this is the one where Tampa did shine in comparison to Pensacola. Tampa came in at 96, whereas Pensacola came in at 105. I wish I knew why that this was so much more expensive in Pensacola, but I could not find anything that really was evident about why this was higher.
And I will say that we have heard that from when we since we moved down here, is that people are constantly saying, gosh, these electricity bills are insane. You would think, okay, AC's running all this stuff, of course it's going to be a little bit higher, but it does seem like the rates are higher in Pensacola as compared to Tampa. We also do have a property down in like the Clearwater area, area, so we kind of know, or it's like, all right, cool, our electric bill down here is this much, whereas up here it's this much. And so it's great that we get to compare the two and really kind of see that number come into fruition of, yeah, we do know that it's more expensive in Pensacola when it comes to those utilities.
This isn't typical for our cost of living discussion. However, many of you who have been contacting us, especially as we kind of get into the nitty gritty of like once we started putting in contracts on certain houses, what about wind and hurricane insurance? Guys, this is going to be universal across the board, whether you are buying in Pensacola or you are buying down in Tampa. It is going to be very similar when you are looking at the wind or the hurricane insurance, so wind and flood. This is hard to find in Florida. After the last big hurricane, which was Ian in 2022, we saw not only insurance companies going belly up and shutting down business, but also some insurances pulling out of Florida. So whether you're buying up north or you're going down to Tampa, you are going to see a high wind and flood insurance. So it's really important when we're looking at houses to try to check that flood zone and kind of where you are, as well as making sure that you go with an established company, because a lot of the small ones did not make it. So this is something that you will have to kind of put into your cost of living expenses, especially when purchasing a house. Also, note when hurricane season is, because coming from a place where we didn't have hurricanes, we had to learn that there may be a time when you're buying that you may not have that coverage, because they will not insure you during certain times of the year. So just something we have to talk about, but in comparison the two cities, you're going to be seeing the same thing regardless. The third thing that we're going to be comparing is the climate. Now this one, I'm excited to talk about because the numbers, I don't think tell.
Yeah, the numbers, we looked them up and we're like, BS, that is not true. Like I said, we do have a property down there as well as over in the Pensacola area, and it just doesn't seem like these numbers are right. But why don't we go ahead and throw you the numbers. We'll give our personal opinion when living in Pensacola as compared to down in Tampa and kind of see what we're seeing. So first one's being is kind of your highs and your lows. If we're looking at those highs, so we're talking about your highs from, summertime into wintertime. Down in Tampa, you're looking at about 68 to 88, depending on what season. So 68, kind of what from what I was seeing, everyone was saying that like January is pretty much the coldest month down in Florida. That's where you're going to see those highs of 68s. Where over in Pensacola, it's like 61 to 89. So apparently it gets warmer in Pensacola. Still don't agree with that whatsoever. And it does still get a little bit cooler. You still do see some more seasons in Pensacola as opposed to down to Tampa. That's one big reason why we did choose the Pensacola area as opposed to Tampa. Now, what are those lows looking like? The lows down in Tampa, you're looking at like 56 to 79. And so you're looking, summertime, your lows are right around 79. In the wintertime, it's closer to that 50 number. And so it doesn't get as low in Tampa as opposed to Pensacola.
Yeah, because over in Pensacola, you're going to be looking at 47 as a low, and then the high of the lowest part is going to be 79. Yep. So you're definitely going to be dipping into the 40s over here in Pensacola. And actually last year, we even dipped a little lower than that a couple times a year, which was causing a lot of ruckus when it came to some of our trees, our palms, and things like that who do not survive the freezing cold weathers.
Now, humidity is another big factor when we're talking about this weather and climate in the two cities. And so down in like Tampa, you got pretty much like 88s. This is on average. They took all the numbers and put it into a yearly average. You're looking at like 88% in the morning, and then when you break into the afternoon, it dropping all the way down to 50% in humidity.
Now, this is where the discussion's going to come, and we might get some commenting down below. Pensacola on this numbers, we're stating 85% to 60%. Yeah. We have to talk about this because number one, when we're talking about these highs and lows, humidity plays a huge factor in what those highs and lows feel like. So maybe what my idea behind this is, okay, fine, maybe the temperatures are similar. Yeah. But it always feels a lot hotter in Tampa than it does in Pensacola. And I'm not just saying this to say it. Like, we own properties in both places, and it feels so much hotter down there.
Yeah, it's unbearable in Tampa. When we go down there like in the middle of summer, you gotta get me the hell out of here because it is so humid. It's that whole effect that I talk about where it feels like it's a blow dryer in your face the entire time. You will not stop sweating. This summer is the first time that we actually experienced a summer in Pensacola. It was bearable,
it was
right?
So nice.
We have family coming here like, wow, this is amazing compared to when we go down to your Clearwater property. This is an awesome climate. And so I personally, I don't agree with these numbers whatsoever. Yeah. I just feel like the humidity is so much worse when you get into Central and South Florida as opposed to kind of like the Pensacola area.
Yeah, the other thing too is don't just take our word for it. Like we said, we just dropped our family off at the airport. And when you get here, you start to kind of get acclimated. Believe me, I'm getting cold now. And in Florida, and it could be like 80 degrees and I'm cold. So yes, you get used to it. However, family just came into town and they were like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. Meanwhile, the locals who are here are saying, oh, that was our hottest summer in a while. And we're like, oh man, if that's the hottest summer in a while, like we got this.
Oh
We
yeah,
can
it
do
was
this.
easy.
It's so nice. Like obviously water plays a huge factor into that. If it's gonna be in the 90s, like yes, I do enjoy my pool. Yes, we're going to, go jump in either like a float trip in the river or we're gonna be going over to the ocean to cool down. But it's stunning.
Yep. The fourth thing that we're going to be covering and comparing these two cities is the traffic and congestion. And before we break into that, guys, make sure you do stick around to the end. We're going to give you our personal opinions because these are two spots that we were actually choosing between and ended up choosing the Pensacola area over Tampa. So let's kind of talk about that traffic.
The obvious one is that Tampa has more population versus Pensacola. So that is going to naturally just feel like it's more concentrated. However, the main thing that people typically will say that they're moving down to Florida is because they do want to have access to the beach and go enjoy those things.
Yeah.
Well, in Tampa, you're going to be crossing over and you are also going to be doing that from Pensacola. Now, in Tampa, they have 3 main highways. I will tell you, 60 sometimes is so dense and congested that we have to try to find alternate routes, but the next bridge down is actually quite a ways away and it takes you way off route. So if you're not living in between the 2 bridges, it is going to be very inconvenient to use 60 in certain traffic hours.
Well, even if we were talking about, so say that like you're not necessarily in Tampa, say you're more over near Clearwater, the traffic is still horrible, guys. It seems like any time that we need to get somewhere, you hit some super congested traffic. The highways were always backed up no matter what. It was just a nightmare. When we were furnishing our property, like, we were closer to Clearwater, our property over there. We had to go over to like IKEA over in Tampa.
Yeah.
It took us, what, like 2 hours? I'm just like, this is insane. It depends, of course, on the time frame and all that stuff, but it seems like there's always traffic on one of those bridges. Doesn't matter which one you choose.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. It's only supposed to take us like 40-minute drive to get to IKEA. And sometimes in certain conditions, it would take like 45 minutes. Other times, oh my gosh, it was such a pain in the butt. Now, if you're coming from Pensacola, yes, we have the 3-mile bridge. So 110 turns into the 3-mile bridge. I have never been stuck on the 3-mile bridge. I have never been backed up on the 3-mile bridge. I feel like it's not as congested.
I've never seen traffic in Pensacola. Like, it doesn't matter what time that we're driving or anything like that. The highway is always like super free and open. Never really hit traffic. The only traffic we really hit is like during school time because we are in a small town outside of Pensacola. School time, it's like, all right, cool. Kids are trying to get to school. Parents are bringing their kids to school. That is the only time. Outside of that, nothing like what we see down in Tampa.
Yeah, and even, so say downtown, like if you want to take like the most concentrated place in Pensacola, like in kind of the most hopping, that's gonna be downtown Pensacola. Yes, we still have like cars, moving and grooving down there, but it's still not that bad. Like it's, we complain if we're like waiting for the stoplight for a little, for a minute while that all goes by. And honestly, it's just, that's one of my favorite parts about Pensacola is that it isn't like we come from, the city of Denver where it's really busy. Well, sometimes inner city of Tampa kind of feels a little bit like that as the inner city of Denver, which that's crazy to me. Like it shouldn't be like a huge city when you're going down to Tampa, but it does feel like that.
I'll argue that I think that at times the traffic in Tampa was worse than what we experienced in Denver because those bridges, you get bottlenecks so bad on those that it creates such a backup. And so that was horrible. And it seems like the infrastructure isn't there to accommodate for the amount of people that are living inside of Tampa.
Yeah, and with those 3 bridges, because like I said, there's 3 going over from, say Tampa area over on, to get closer to the beaches. They are so far apart that if you do end up having to take an alternate one, you are going to be further south than you want to be. Or, it'll take you off route. So that ends up, even if you are making up the traffic on the bridge, you're going to be now bringing it back in because you have to make, the inner city, like to get back up to where you're trying to go. So definitely a headache when looking at all of that.
Yep. The 5th thing that we're going to be talking about is the entertainment and activities between the 2 cities. I will say that Tampa definitely does have the upper end on this. I mean, it's a larger city, so you got your Topgolfs, you got your professional sports that we do not have in Pensacola. You just have all those big box stores that Pensacola is just really lacking because it is a smaller city.
I will also say that Tampa is going to be better for your foodies out there, looking for restaurants that have a lot of, diet accommodations. I still feel like Pensacola is kind of like the South, and like if it's not deep fried or straight out the water, like you're gonna have to kind of like find your favorite places where you can find things, within a close proximity in Tampa if you want variation and diet restrictions.
Now we spoke with one of you who are moving from Clearwater into the Pensacola area. The reason being is because you're saying that fishing, like deep sea fishing, you don't have to go out as far from Pensacola Beach as opposed to say down in like a Clearwater area. You have to go out, I think they were saying what, like 70 miles over in Clearwater, where you don't have to go out as far in Pensacola. So it sounds like fishing might be a little bit better in the Emerald Coast when we're talking about those activities.
I will be bold enough to say that I think that Pensacola has better water things in general, whether it's just exploring the beaches or, you know, we still do have all of the tubing and, you know, hot springs close by or springs close by, things like that, where I do think that we have the upper end. Maybe we don't need to have as many things like kind of in the city to accommodate all of that, because a lot of people are spending most of their time on the beach, with only having Pensacola, what, 10, 15 minutes away from you in Pensacola Beach from Pensacola. I think a lot of people are just spending most of their time on the water.
Yeah, guys, I mean, I'm sure those of you who are down in Tampa, love Tampa and all that stuff, sorry, Pensacola, the beaches in the Emerald Coast blow away any of the beaches I've seen in like Clearwater, St. Pete's, any of that. They don't even compare. Like the water and the beaches that are in Pensacola Beach, all the way down into Destin, are fantastic and just unbeatable.
The sixth thing that we're going to compare when looking at these two cities is the overall vibe. And they are very different.
They are.
Very, very different.
Oh, yeah, they are. I would say, like, when we go down into Clearwater, it's more beachy feeling,
Yeah.
right? There's more palm trees. You're in a different climate down there. The hardiness zone is different, so you have different plants and all that stuff
Yeah,
growing.
lots of tropical plants
Yeah,
that
so it
survive
feels
all
more
year
beachy,
long.
you know, yeah.
Now you come up to Pensacola, like we still have pine needles and pine trees, which
Yeah.
is so strange. I did not expect that moving closer to the water. And yes, we have like lots of foliage and lots of big old mature trees, but you still have palms the closer you get to, like, say Gulf Breeze or Pensacola Beach. But
Yeah.
in Pensacola, it just feels a little bit more like Alabama.
It does, yeah. It feels a little bit more south, you know. And when we're talking about the vibes as well, too, obviously, you know, you have tourists in both places, but it's not as bad in Pensacola as opposed to Tampa. You have a lot of people who are going to those beaches, like we mentioned, you know, Clearwater, St. Pete's, was it John's Pass?
Yeah, John's Pass.
Yeah, it's like, so that has a ton of tourism going down there, so it does feel a lot more beachy down there. They are trying to attract those tourists into the area.
The other thing is Pensacola feels like small town.
Yeah.
And that's weird.
The whole
I guess
area,
the
yeah.
population will show like it is kind of like a small city, right? But Tampa feels like city. It has tall buildings. You know, when you're walking down there, you are looking up, and you just don't have that same vibe in Pensacola. Like when you go down downtown Pensacola, you have like two tier. Actually, my parents said it best when they were down here. They're like, "Oh, it kind of looks like New Orleans,
Yeah.
where it's like 2-story, like really beautiful."
They have the patios up above.
Yeah. Whereas when you're in downtown Tampa, like you are
It's big city.
feeling downtown Tampa, like you are in the city. It feels like city. It's the hustle and bustle. Like
Yep.
it's not as relaxed as say Pensacola. That's another thing people say all the time.
Yeah.
It feels like it just it makes you relax in Pensacola.
It's a
like
slower pace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. So this is actually a great segue into why we chose Pensacola over Tampa, because like right around 2020 is when we really started to look around and figure out if we're moving to Florida, what portion do we want to be into? And it's like we've been to Miami, we've been over into Hollywood, on the Atlantic side. Clearwater area, Sarasota, all that stuff, and Pensacola just really got our hearts just because that small town vibe. Ultimately, we wanted to get away from the big city. We wanted that small town vibe, and that's why we did choose Pensacola. The beaches were a huge plus. We saw the beaches and we're like, wow, I cannot believe that these even exist here, and not too many people know about them. So ultimately, what it comes down to is, what are you looking for? Are you moving to Florida from another big city to another big city, and you still want that big city vibe? Or are you wanting to slow down a little bit more to somewhere like Pensacola, or even a few of the cities that are on the Emerald Coast? Figure it out what your priority is. Also, if it's a job type of thing where you can work remotely, or you can find somewhere to work in Pensacola, that might be a great option for you as opposed to going to a big city. Or maybe you are going to be employed by someone in that big city. Figure out what is going to work best for you guys, and then make a decision from there.
All right, we've talked about 5 different things comparing these two beautiful cities. If this is something that you are interested in following, because we do cover all the topics of Emerald Coast, from Destin all the way up to Pensacola, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and then also hit the notification bell so you get notified every single time we put out a new video.
And if you are looking at purchasing real estate in the Emerald Coast, give us a call or text the phone number right below. Right below right there, we always answer. It doesn't matter day or time. Until next time, we love you. Bye.
Bye.
It drops all the way down to 50%. It drops down to 50.
Sorry.
It drops down to like 50%. Oh my god, you gotta get me hell. You've got. This is an awesome client, and so
Client? You said client.
Oh, this is an awesome client. This is an